What's going on, everybody? Dottz here with the next episode of our Q&A series, courtesy of one of my patrons, Aidda. Huge thanks to her for supporting this series and resurrecting it, as well as a huge thank you to all the patrons that help support my channel. And guys, if you want to sign up for Patreon, get some cool perks, and help support my channel and what I do for as little as $1 per month, check the Patreon link in the description below. So guys, the way this series works is that I have a list of questions that Aidda has written down for me, and she's also been going through the comment section of the last video and curating questions that she thinks would be helpful to be answered. So if you guys want a chance for your questions to be entered into the next Q&A video, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. These questions are going to cover a wide variety of things, from me as a content creator to the Elder Scrolls Online to BDO to other games. So our first question today: how does off balance work and what can cause it? So basically, off balance is kind of like a state that an opponent can be in. It kind of looks like there's an icon above your target's head. Like if you look at the debuffs underneath their health bar, that looks like somebody who's been like stunned and that they're like dizzy, and those types of like stars are circling their head. And what off balance allows you to do is a couple of things. There is a CP star in the champion points tree that if you have 75 points into the ritual tree, there's an extra perk that you get that increases damage done by 10%. So if you're primarily playing stamina DPS, you'd be getting a 10% damage increase. Off balance also allows you to restore significantly more damage significantly more resources via heavy attacks, which is why if you set a target off balance, you're able to heavy attack and restore a significant chunk of your resources, which is a really good thing. And if you medium or heavy attack somebody who's off balance, you will stun them, assuming that they're not on CC cooldown or something. Now, off balance also does have its own cooldown. It'll last for a period of time and then be on cooldown for a period of time, and then you'll be able to set a target off balance again. This can be done from either dodge roll from the tactician passive in the CP trees. You could also use certain skills that just set targets off balance, or lightning damage has a chance to set targets off balance as well. It's a very important debuff in the game of ESO and something that you should definitely be aware of. Our next question is: for ESO, picking between the banker and the merchant, and which one would you pick if you could only pick one? Personally, I would 100% do the banker. I find the banker to be infinitely more useful than the merchant. The merchant's very useful, obviously very helpful. If you can get them both, I would. But the banker, I just like having access to my bank wherever I am. You know, to me, that I find that more valuable than being able to just like sell junk in my bags, especially because now my bag sizes on most of my characters are pretty large. So for me, I can usually just like go back after a run, or, you know, like a farming session or a dungeon or something, and just decon and sell my items to the merchants there. Also, unfortunately, the merchant, like the NPC merchant you get, can't repair your gear. So she's really only for dumping trash. So in my opinion, I think if you're only to pick one, the banker has infinitely more uses, especially because banks are account wide. Now, another question that was picked up from the last video, asked by Steven Watson, is that: hi Dottz, what has been your favorite addition to the game and what has been the worst? Keep up the great post. Well, first of all, thank you, Steven. I appreciate that, man. Favorite addition to the game, absolutely, no doubt about it, transmutation. The transmutation system was the greatest thing, in my opinion, single greatest thing to be added to the Elder Scrolls Online. It just makes farming gear way less of a nightmare, way less of an RNG fest, and it is an amazing, amazing addition. Because it used to be, right, let's all use BSW Inferno staffs, right? You used to have to try to get a Burning Spellweave Inferno staff with the correct trait. So not only were you trying to get the RNG to actually get the staff itself, there was also the RNG to hopefully get the correct trait. So it would just take you forever to actually get the gear you needed, because it was like double RNG. But now all you need is the staff, and as long as you have a certain trait researched on that character, you can transmute it to the trait that you want, which is a really awesome thing. In terms of my personal worst change, I know this isn't not going to be the worst change for some people, but it's my personal worst change. It is the cast times on ultimates. I personally am not a fan of them. I think they are too long. I think they disrupt the flow of gameplay, and certain classes like Nightblade kind of hits them all pretty hard, because if you are able to CC break fast enough, the cast time on their skills is long enough that if you CC break, like if a Nightblade stuns you and you CC break, you'll be able to CC break and dodge roll before the Nightblade can hit you. And to me, that doesn't make any sense, because you should be able to combo people and deal damage off of your CC. So me personally, I think adding those long cast times to ultimates is my personal worst change. I'm not a big fan of that disruption of combat. Now, our next question is about both BDO and ESO. What type of player would you recommend plays BDO, and what type of player would you recommend plays ESO? So BDO comes down to, in my opinion, two types of people. I've been playing Black Desert Online a pretty good amount on my stream. For those of you who don't know, I've been having a good time with it. And I would say the two types of people that should play Black Desert are people that love to just like craft, and like they're called life skills in that game. And if you love crafting and making money in game, like you're gonna have a field day with BDO because it's such a huge part of the game. It's a really, really big part of the game. So if you like that stuff, it's gonna be right up your alley. Also, if you like PvP, BDO is very PvP focused, which I personally like, obviously, since I'm really into PvP. But just keep in mind, it doesn't play like a traditional MMO in terms of PvP. I would kind of compare it more to a fighter, where it's more about stringing CC chains together and keeping and dealing as much damage as you can within that CC chain. Kind of like how in a fighter, you knock an opponent into the air and then you want to deal that damage while they're in the air. It doesn't play like ESO, where you can so easily recover from mistakes. You make a mistake and you pretty much die. So for me with BDO, it's people that like I said, PvP and then crafting. If you like PvE content, BDO is not going to be for you because there's no traditional PvE in that game. There's just like mob grinding and world bosses, which are a means to get gear to eventually PvP. In terms of ESO, I would pretty much recommend ESO to anybody that likes to especially quest. Like questing in ESO is, in my opinion, especially from the new player perspective, one of the best experiences. It feels like an Elder Scrolls game. The quests are all completely voice acted. They have really, really good stories. You can get some cool like pets, mementos, houses now, etc. from doing the quest. So the questing experience is really, really good. And I think the dungeon experience in ESO is really good as well. Especially the recent DLC dungeons that have come out. The dungeon team has done an amazing job on it. Absolutely great job. So I think that the mechanics have been very interesting. The dungeons are accessible to more players now. So I think it's really good for people that love dungeon diving. The thing where, unfortunately, it begins to kind of, in my opinion at least, become a bit of a problem is with ESO's endgame, mainly PvP and trials. And it's a shame because I love both of those things. They are my favorite two things in the game to do, but at the current moment, they just don't run well. Trials has a lot of problems right now. People not being able to res, people being in different instances, people not being able to bar swap, people not being able to use skills. I don't know if I said res their allies. There's just, sometimes like so many trials have their own unique bugs. Like I was running VAS +2 with my guild the other day, and when Olms hit 75%, he just randomly decided to respawn at 100%, ruining that run, So trials just have a lot of bugs right now. And then PvP, like we really don't need to go super in depth with it. Grey Host is nothing short of the worst experience ever. It's just a laggy mess. It's just literally a dumpster fire. The standard campaign, way more fun, at least for me. I pretty much only exclusively play the standard campaign now. Grey House is just unplayable. And the only thing that kind of stinks about that is that the standard campaign will like randomly have 2 bars all across, but it's mostly like only during prime time. So if it's not during prime time, you're not going to really be able to play in the standard campaign. So your options are like Grey Host or Battlegrounds, and if you want to play Cyrodiil, then you're kind of out of luck. So for me, like I said, the biggest thing that holds me back from saying like ESO is going to be a great, like an amazing PvP MMO at the current moment is just its own performance. If they can fix the ability lag problems, that is going to be a huge boon, because overall, like my FPS and ping have gotten better personally. It's just, like I said, that input lag is just, it kills the PvP experience right now. It definitely makes it a lot more stressful. So I am hoping that once that thing gets fixed, especially like ability lag, I will be able to way more freely recommend ESO for like end game trials and end game PvP. I want to, but at the moment, with just the amount of problems the performance has, I necessarily cannot. The next question is class identity intact in ESO? What about BDO? So BDO, yes, because BDO is not like ESO. ESO, all the classes have a lot of freedom. There's a lot of overlap between what the classes have access to due to the weapon and guild lines. BDO is kind of more like WoW in the respect that the classes are super defined, where it's like, this is what a wizard does, and this is what he has access to, and that's it, Like, it's not like ESO where you have these crazy character builds and you can build your character however you want. It's totally different in that regards. In terms of ESO class identity, I think think they've started taking steps in the right direction, but I think that their combat balancing over the last 6 months, 6 to 12 months, has kind of shot them in the foot a little bit with it. Some of the decisions they've made about trying to give classes more identity, some have been good, some have not. We all know the debacle that was Stone Fist. Better now, but in the beginning, very bad. Also the over nerfing of Dottz has also, I think, made DKs lose their class identity a bit, as you see a lot of DK builds now for PvP are not even running the Dottz anymore. They use, maybe the secondary effects, but that's it. So I think they still kind of need to work out some of the game balance right now, and I think certain classes do need a little bit more in the identity department, and the main one I could think of right off the top of my head is Stam Sork. Stam Sork only has a handful of class skills, and I super believe that's for Stam Sork, the underlying theme of like air and wind is being so underutilized. It's being so underutilized and could be such a badass class theme, and I really, really hope that we get to see more skills under that like type of line in the future. But overall, I think they're taking some steps in the right direction with class identity, but I think they still definitely have a little bit of a ways to go. Year-long storyline, what does that mean? Did it mean that I missed something? If I start now, will I be able to get the full story? So the year-long storyline basically has to do with the 4 content releases that the Elder Scrolls Online does over the course of a year. So last year we had, what was it? Wrathstone, Elsewhere, Scalebreaker, and Dragonhold. So basically what you do is you go, okay, what was the first quarter DLC content? It was Wrathstone. Those are 2 dungeons, so you do those 2 dungeons. Then you have the actual chapter, so you go do the Elsewhere main quest. Then you have the Scalebreaker dungeons, you do those dungeons, and then finally you have the Dragonhold questline. And you can do that whenever you want. You can catch up however you want to. You just do those things in order, and you'll be able to see that whole story from start to finish. And that's kind of, I think, the new format that they're going to be doing moving forward. DLCs, what do you get and what trials are open to you now? And what is the story about? Well, that's going to depend on the specific DLC that you buy. I don't really fully understand this question. What I would recommend that you do, if there's any DLC that you want to purchase or if there's something you want to look at, what I would do is just Google it. Like if you go, what does the Dark Brotherhood DLC give me for ESO? Just Google that. You'll be able to find a page that has literally everything listed. But the biggest thing I recommend to people, if they really want to play ESO and if they start playing it, is, and you want everything, the best way to do it is just buy the Elsewhere edition and then get ESO Plus. It is the most cost-efficient way to buy the game. You'll have literally everything, and you'll be able to access and try these DLCs and see if you like them. So that's what I recommend. But in terms of what the individual DLCs get, it totally depends on, like I said, on the individual ones. Are there any bookmarked websites that you want to shout out that are useful? Oh, absolutely. And I will leave links in the description below for these specific websites. Let me look at my favorites list here. So the first thing that I would recommend is the UESP wiki. They have a lot of good articles on their wiki. They also have the greatest build calculator ever. So if you'd like to tinker with builds, they have a build editor on their website that's really, really good. So huge shout out to the people over at UESP. I use this build editor a lot, so very, very, very good website. We also have, where's the next one here? We also have Tamriel Trade Center. That's another good one. I use Tamriel Trade Center to basically, this is a PC only one, because it plays off an add-on. Basically, you're able to search across all guild traders on your platform for PC, either EU or NA, which guild traders have what items. So it makes it a lot easier for you to try and find what you're looking for. Makes it way easier and saves you a lot of time. I obviously recommend my own website, dottsgaming.com. I have tons of beginner guides on there, tons of intermediate guides, as well as builds for every class, every role, PvP, PvE, and I'm currently working on outputting solo builds. So for guides, builds, all that jazz related to ESO, dottsgaming.com will pretty much have you covered. And then the final 2 websites I have are created by Alcast and Wohler, and they are ESO sets and ESO skills. So if you want to just look up a set or a skill in a pinch, you can just easily check their websites and you'll be able to see what you're looking for and what those skills do. I believe they also have another one, ESO Housing. that is basically the same type of thing, but for housing items. So those are my favorite websites, and like I said, I'll leave those ones linked in the description below. What's my favorite add-on? Are you sad about any add-ons not being updated anymore? My favorite 100% add-on that I could not live without is Action Duration Reminder. Action Duration Reminder, no idea how it's not in the base game. It is the one that I get asked about probably the most. And it's the one that has like the cooldowns on the skills when I use them. So like, let's say I use my Volatile Armor on my Magic Dragon Knight, it'll show me how much time is left on my Volatile Armor on the actual skill on my bars itself. It just makes it so much easier to like keep track of my skills and what's being used and stuff. It's amazing. Am I sad about any add-ons not being updated anymore? Not really. My UI has been really similar for a long time, like going on a year. I really haven't changed it up very much. So there's nothing I can think of off the top of my head that I'm like, dang, I missed that, you know? No, I can't say there's anything that I can think of immediately. Wait, oh, no. Wait, there is one. There was like a guild add-on that I used to manage the guild that made guild management so easy. And basically it would tell you how long someone's been in the guild if you just like hovered your mouse over them, and it would tell you how much gold that individual donated to the guild. It made my guild management so easy, and then it just stopped being updated, and like I tried to still use it and it broke my game. But it was a really good guild management tool, and I'm definitely sad to see that add-on no longer be updated. When looking at a new game, what do you look forward to? Or what are some deal breakers? Oh, that's a tough question. Oh, I don't know, because it depends. That's a really open-ended question. It depends. It depends on the kind of game that it is, you know? It really depends on the kind of game it is and kind of what I'm looking for in a game, you know? Like, for example, if I'm playing a single-player game, I'm gonna look for fun combat, interesting mechanics, good story. But when it comes to like my MMO, I don't really, care about the story as much, you know? I care more about, again, combat. I care about PvP, I care about how to gear up, things like that. But yeah, that is a big open-ended question. It definitely depends. So you know what? I'm gonna put a little pin on this one, and if you could possibly expand on that, like in terms of like what types of games you might be like referring to, that would definitely be helpful, because it so depends on what kind of game I'm looking at, and my deal breakers are going to vary based off the kind of game I'm looking at. A crafting question: when you do mat gathering, do you just do the surveys, or do you harvest every node you come across? Are there any add-ons that you can show off how to use? So in terms of gathering, I am a lazy boy, so I only really gather from my surveys. I'm lazy, so when it comes to that type of stuff. But realistically, you should harvest every node that you walk across. It really isn't that much of a hardship to do it. But the surveys, if you do your writs every day, which stream, be proud of me, I've been doing my writs every day now, you'll get a ton of materials. You get a ton of materials just between your like daily hireling that you can get out of the crafting skill lines. Between doing the surveys, you are able to get a shitload of materials that doesn't require you to actually just go out and just farm. But it is still good if you're out and about in the world. You should harvest every node. Just gonna help pad your material pool that much more. And in terms of any add-ons that I can recommend, I'm gonna pull up my minion, because actually there is a new one that I just installed recently. The first one that I would recommend for sure is Dolgobin's Lazy Writ Creator. It makes writs so much easier to do. When I see people do writs without them, without it, I have no idea why. It literally makes doing writs just a singular click, and like, bam, that's it. And then there's another one called Daily Alchemy. That's it. Because Dolgobin's Lazy Writ Creator does them all except for Alchemy. I don't know why, but I have Daily Alchemy to fill in that void, and it does that. So I'm literally able to do every single one of my writs on all my characters by just going click, 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 done. You know, it's just do writ, and that's it. So makes it a much, much easier process. Okay, and then our next question. Let me just mark off these ones as completed. When a ring says it decreases Stam Cost, does it work on dodge? Yes, it does. Decrease Stam Cost, I believe, will decrease the cost of like everything that costs Stam, except for block, because block has a specific glyph that you use to reduce block cost. So it pretty much applies to everything except for, I think, bash and block. So I think break free and dodge roll are both affected by that, yeah. But it just, like I said, just doesn't work on block and bash. How much XP does Enlighten give, and how do you get it? So that depends on how much you have banked up. I think every time it refreshes, I want to say it's 400,000. I could be wrong. But if you just hover your mouse over your level bar at the top left, you'll be able to see what it actually affects. But you get it by it refreshes every day. Very simple. It refreshes every day, banks up over time, and it will cap, though. I think the cap, again, this is just the top of my head. I want to say it's like 4.8 million. I think it'll cap out eventually. Again, could be wrong, but I think I know it does cap out. I just forget the exact number, but it just refreshes every day. It's that simple. It just increases the amount of experience you gain, like I said, and it gives you a little bit more each day. All right, so last one for this video. For the Mages Guild lore books, do you get a bonus for doing the whole zone? How much is the bonus? What do you think is faster, doing the questline or finding books? So, I actually have a guide for that on my YouTube channel. So if you want to just search, best way to level Mages Guild, you should find it on my channel. Because yes, the best way to do it is to do the entire zone. Doing the whole zone, definitely the best way to do it, because you get a boost, like a big boost to the skill line whenever you complete like a whole book. Or like a whole collection, I think might be the word. Whenever you complete a whole collection, you get a big boost to your Mages Guild experience that it's really substantial. So it's better to go zone by zone by zone by zone, so that every time you complete that zone and complete a collection, you're gonna get a big boost to that Mages Guild skill line and make doing that absolutely wonderful leveling up process make it a little bit faster. But I don't think the questline actually gives you any levels. You need to go out and find the books. The questline will give you skill points at the end, or there's another thing that it gives you. I forget. I always take the skill points option, but you got to go out there and slog through the books. Unfortunately, it is the best way to do it. So guys, that is going to be it for me today in today's Q&A. Again, huge thanks to Aidda for writing down these questions and giving me a list. We got through some good ones today, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this and found it helpful. If you have any questions, again, for the next one, please leave them below. Like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to keep up with more. Thank you all for stopping by. Very much appreciate it. As always, I'm Dottz Gaming, and I'll see you all in the next one.